What is up,
Boom.
everybody? Obviously, we are back, and we're taking a look today at the newest footage of Miles Morales and just sort of a roundup of all of the new reveals, everything going on. We got some new costumes. We got some new footage of Miles. We got a boss fight in action. We've got the Venom Blast, or the Venom Punch, as it's being called here, in action. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I am joined today, as always, by the wonderful Evan Filarca. I always have to think about how to pronounce your name, and I feel like I'm doing it wrong every time.
You actually got it perfectly right. I know for a fact that people have mispronounced it several times, but you get an A+, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, I do what I can. And hey, I'm happy to have you here talking about this with me. You are extremely passionate about Spider-Man. You're in the hashtag Spidey Squad. Obviously. And, you're over on Twitter. You have your own channel with a lot going on that will be linked in the pinned comment and in the description. So I hope everyone checks you out because you do a lot of great work. Even though you focus on Spider-Man, I've seen you tackle a variety of other topics as well that matter to you and do a great job every time. I'm always interested in your take. And thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's crazy that at the time of this recording, we are now less than 1 week away until launch. The reviews are out. Looking interstellar. This whole game is going to be an amazing achievement for just Spider-Man fans in general, and launching on both current gen and next gen consoles is going to be a great way to have more people play it on launch compared to just having it exclusively on next gen. And based on everything that we learned about today at the time of this recording, it is going to be a huge, awesome win for a lot of us who are super excited about Miles Morales.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. I mean, this game already, by the way, is beautiful. If you watch the reveal or the actual footage, right now it's up on IGN, and that may be where we had to nab it from for this video as well. But if you watch the actual footage of the first 22 minutes just in 4K, and this is obviously on YouTube, which is compressed and everything, this is probably one of the best looking games I've seen ever. It looks amazing. I love the city as well, and that's something I kind of wanted to start out talking about. This might actually sneak in there with, and maybe tie with Arkham Origins as my favorite Christmas-y game, depending on how great this is. It's Insomniac, we already know it's going to be great, but just the snow, the vibrancy, there is a real attitude and atmosphere to New York that is very different in this version of the game, or this spin-off game, whatever you want to call it, midquel. I've heard it described in many different ways. There is a very unique aesthetic to it just from adding that snow and some other stuff, even though a lot of the map is really the same. It's very interesting, and I think it looks fantastic. Miles, to quote GameSpot, he's got that swagger. I don't know why they said that, but that was an absolute miss of a call. I think the fallout of that is still going on Twitter. It's really funny. But I mean, Miles does have a lot of personality traits in this that separate him from Peter, I think is probably what they were trying to say. He does have an attitude about him. His movements are different. There is a lot of subtleties in this that I think you have even pointed them out with the swinging and stuff like that in your videos as well.
Yes, there is a lot of flair for a stylish young teenager to have, apparently of African-American descent, that GameSpot made very clear in their review. Very interesting choice of words on their part. But I definitely think that Miles is going off with how he's swinging compared to Peter, which, by the way, is very interesting on how Insomniac have gone about developing this version of traversal compared to Spider-Man PS4. If you guys remember, Brian Intar was actually interviewed by, of course, none other than Greg Miller from Kinda Funny Games about Spider-Man PS4 after it released, and he basically said that when they were developing the traversal system, they made sure that the swinging felt fluid, fast, and fun, as well as have some acrobatic stylings for Peter since he's much more graceful than Miles. However, the thing that they actually implemented last within the game's overall design for the swinging is actually the air tricks. It seems like that they did that last minute in terms of the design for the swinging to have a bit more controllability when you as the player are swinging around as Spider-Man. Instead of doing the automatic swing tricks, you can control them by pressing and holding triangle and circle like what we do in the game with the front flips, bat flips, or side twirls and all that, which look fun in the game and they're very fun to actually pull off. But for Miles, they did that from the ground up to make Miles feel much more different from Peter and give a lot more acrobatic flair and styling to Miles compared to Peter. which is why they actually officially confirmed from the official senior animator at Insomniac Games, James Ham, that there are apparently over 21 controllable air tricks for Miles to utilize in the game. And if you actually end up mixing and matching them fully, it ends up becoming a total amount of over 30. So they have gone above and beyond when it comes to making the traversal even more improved and much more entertaining. If you already love the swinging from Spider-Man PS4, then I definitely think that this is going to be a huge step in the right direction for how Miles is going to swing, and of course, how that could possibly translate in the future once we receive the official sequel.
Yeah, I absolutely love how Miles sort of flails about when he's trying to swing as well, which is something you'll definitely be able to see in the footage, because this is someone who is not fully used to this yet. I mean, he is, but he's not. He's about a year in. You have to think as well that he has not been out in the field the entire year, and he's usually been pretty much under the supervision of Peter. So there is a lot of different stuff kind of going on with him as you play this game. One thing that's going to be very interesting, like you said, is to see the sequel, and also to see the inevitable sequel with Miles, whether that's in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and you're switching between the two characters, or whether it's in Marvel Spider-Man 3 or a future title where you're playing as Miles. We haven't gotten there yet, but I am 100% convinced that Insomniac made this decision on purpose to sort of show Miles grow over time. I am sure that by the time he is a fully fledged adult superhero all the way, you know, we won't be seeing him flail around and stuff like that too. And you do kind of see, even in this game, when he gets into a fight, I'm going to say there's spoilers for the first 20 minutes of the game in this, obviously, because that's what we're talking about. But you do see him start to kind of get a little more comfortable with cracking jokes, although when he's under pressure, he's also a little less likely to do that than Peter is. There's a few times he does it, but not nearly as much. So he's kind of focusing in on what he's doing, whereas Peter is, you know, very, I guess, he's a veteran. He's already, you know, he has that attitude and style already developed. I do think that the movement system is great to see. I can't wait for people to tell me that I'm swinging wrong again whenever I play this game, because I hear that all the time from the first one. By the way, how do you swing wrong in this game? Can you clear this up for me? I don't understand it.
It's all about a matter of style, of course. If they don't see you doing some cool flips and tricks while giving a peace sign while doing it, then I guess they won't consider that as cool enough. But I think that you'll definitely be able to master the swinging once we get the remaster, and of course with Miles, with all those swing tricks. I think you'll be A-okay.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, it's never quite good enough, though, you know?
Right?
I do think, though, too, that, like, one of the things that I loved about this trailer is just being able to see the dynamic between Peter and Miles. This is something that I really hope is further developed as well in later games, because as we know that, you know, Peter is leaving for a trip. I said to Sokovia earlier, but it's to Symkaria with MJ.
Yes.
And he's leaving Miles here in New York. And so that's sort of why Miles actually is on his own, really, for the majority of this game. But that sort of, I guess, partner but mentorship vibe or relationship is really cool to see at the beginning of this game. I do think it's sort of a taste of what's to come eventually. You know, seeing these two Spider-Men fight alongside and have their own unique style and looks and develop into their own characters. So I'm very interested to see that as we progress as well.
And I think that's a huge testament to both the animators and the writers of Miles Morales as a whole working in unison, because they really want to make you feel that you're this young, inexperienced whippersnapper who just so happens to have all these amazing spider powers at his disposal, and you're trying to figure out how to be the best possible hero that you can be while trying to live up to the expectations that the previous Spider-Man has set forth, but also trying to be your own thing. While you're doing you, while he's doing him, and while everyone's just doing their own thing, you can try and fully individualize yourself as your own Spider-Man, which is why I love the tagline of the game is be yourself. You don't have to be greater. You don't have to be better. You just be you. Do you. And I think that's a great message to send out for the story as well as the gameplay. Miles is learning how to swing. He's learning how to fight. He's learning how to, you know, connect with people both as Miles and as Spider-Man, trying to balance that relationship and that duality and the dichotomy between his dual identity. And I think that how they're going about it, as we will see his powers grow and evolve while we're playing the game, not just by purchasing upgrades with skill points, of course, and leveling up Miles, but also as the narrative itself progresses while he's connecting with his mom with Genki, with Haley Cooper, with Danica Hart, even with Peter, maybe texting him over while he's overseas or something. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting chemistry that can build off between the relationships, both for the story as well as how that can possibly incorporate into the gameplay. How can that possibly better him fighting someone as Spider-Man? How can he try and maybe save someone as Miles when he's out of the suit, or maybe try and hone his own skills while he's trying to balance his dual life while still trying to be the best he can be in both aspects, is going to be a great narrative portrayal to unfold while we play it for ourselves.
I absolutely agree. And one thing, too, I keep going back to the swinging, but I think one place where you can really see unique Miles gameplay is the fighting. You can see Miles moves very differently than Peter, even in combat. He is much more prone to doing sort of like a jump and punch down. Even his kicks are a little different. He's a little more timid with the way that he fights because, again, he hasn't been doing this for almost a decade like Peter has at this point. Peter was doing this for, about 8 years when Miles got his powers, and now close to 9 years. So Peter is very much a veteran at this whole thing, and you do sort of see that entire relationship. I also do like that they are able already to show that Miles does have to deal with the villains that Peter has had for his entire life and career as Spider-Man, but he's also starting to get his own, which is something that we've seen in both, I don't want to get too far into it because I think it'll get too much into story beats, but we've seen it in interviews and other stuff shown for the game that Miles will also be receiving some of his own unique foes and villains as well throughout the course of the story while dealing with some of Peter's. And I think that's a good mix. I don't think you should go fully one way or the other, and I don't think they are. Because if you drop Miles into New York and you say Peter left, but it's like, oh yeah, but nobody in Peter Parker's Classic Rogues Gallery is a problem this month, that would be kind of weird and inorganic. But if you just said, well, Miles isn't special enough to get his own villains, well, that's also silly because the point of this is Miles is becoming just as much of a Spider-Man as Peter is. I think that's something they missed in the comics a little bit when they went for, didn't they start calling him Iraq Kid for a while?
Yes, they did. Holy smokes. Yes, they did.
Nobody wanted that because the great thing about Miles is he's Spider-Man,
Yes.
He's no less deserving of being Spider-Man than Peter is. And I understand there's less of a history, but that's kind of the point, is that he's growing into Spider-Man, and then they just sort of undid it in the comics. So it's really good to see it's not happening here. I mean, even here, you see them both, they do refer to each other by their first name, but they also both call each other Spider-Man.
Right. And I love how that's just playful banter between Peter and Miles while they're still trying to associate themselves as the one and only Spider-Man, but they are still different from each other, that you don't know who exactly is which, because when they say, oh, Spider-Man's here with the other Spider-Man. Wait, there's two Spider-Men? What's going on? So the public itself is getting used to, oh, there's the new Spider-Man. So it's cool in that regard to see how New York City actually is reacting to Miles as his own hero. Like, this is clearly not the Spider-Man who's been around for 9 years at this point. This is a brand new guy taking up the mantle while the old guy is off in Sicaria. Obviously, he's off and out in the city, but doing stuff on his own, while New York is left with this younger, more youthful, more energetic, more carefree, but also still more heroic Spider-Man, in the sense that he's growing into a hero that it can fully develop into how mature Miles has become over time through the tragedy of his father's death, I should say, Jefferson Davis, and seeing how he's learned from that while also still keeping in touch with his roots with his mom, as well as his friends, but seeing how he can try and learn from that and overcome that and be the best possible hero he can be, while also being very fun and just interactive with the people of New York. I don't want to give away the stuff they showed in the new footage, but he's interacting directly with citizens of New York City way more than what Peter was actually doing in Spider-Man PS4. So it shows that he's not afraid to kind of be working from the shadows or kind of be a bit distant while swinging around. He's very up close and personal with the neighborhood that he's trying to protect, making him more wholesome and much more vibrant than what Peter was in the first game, since he's been at it for a while. Since this is Miles' first go-around, it's going to be very cool to see how he reacts to a lot of these situations for his first time as a hero.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think as well, I think it's important to note, I'm going to be careful here, this game will introduce the new look for Peter Parker as well. So make of that what you will. I think that you and I have gone on record several times with our opinions on that. And it would be such an aside that it probably doesn't matter. But I do think that's something people should be prepared for. This is not the original look for Peter Parker. We do see Miles and Peter kind of sit down and have a heart-to-heart. And Miles does look the same, but Peter does not. And, you know, people are going to get used to that, I think, over time. At least they're just going to be like whatever on it, even if they don't like it. But this is sort of the introduction of that, and that sort of ties into the remaster, which I think is interesting because I've seen probably just as many updates about the remaster on Twitter and other places as I've seen about the about Miles's game itself. You know, we've seen more footage of Miles's game, obviously, but we've seen a lot of updates of the PS5 remaster of the original Marvel Spider-Man, and we finally got the reveal of the other two suits as well. You have the Arachnid Rider, which is based off the Kamen Rider, like you pointed out to me, which is a Japanese... If you don't know what Kamen Riders are, they're essentially like Japanese Power Rangers, but more, I don't know, inspired by that culture than normal Power Rangers would be, I would say. It's kind of hard to describe.
It's very out there. They took a lot of liberties with these two new suits, and this one is very intriguing to see with its overall visual aesthetic, making it look like a direct reference to that show in Spider-Man form. And the second suit, which I will briefly introduce and then you can talk about it, is the Armored Advanced Suit, which is very interesting considering that we already got one of those in the first game. Very interesting indeed.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of strong feelings about the Armored Advanced Suit. To me, it just looks like they took a few elements of the white 2099 suit and combined it with the Advanced Suit. That's it. I would have preferred something else. I'm going to say that is one of the few, that and the face is one of the few things that I just don't fully love about the remaster or the Miles Morales game. I will say, however, that there's much more I do like than don't that I've seen so far. So these two new suits are cool. I think to me the most impressive is still the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit. I think that has the most flair out of any of them that they've introduced. I know that the Kamen Rider one is really neat and unique, but I don't really have any connection to it yet, so maybe I'll feel a little differently after playing with it more. But again, it is really nice to stress that those will also come for free to PlayStation 4. They have sort of stressed that multiple times, that it's just going to be added to the PlayStation 4 version. And while I never saw the word free, they never said that they would charge for it, and they never have, so I don't know why they would start now. I think that's just their precedent, is that suits are generally either a pre-order or included, and if they're a pre-order, it just means you unlock them earlier, which is one thing everybody's loved about how Insomniac has handled their cosmetics.
And I think that's just a huge testament to how much they truly care about the fan base of Spider-Man as a whole. Just knowing how meaningful this character is to so many people and trying to provide them with as much accessibility as possible, not just in regards to gameplay controls and stuff that they've actually posted about where it is more accessible and more friendly for people who may not be able to play the game properly, which is great in itself, but also in the sense that if you don't have next gen with the PS5, guess what? Miles is still on PS4, and we're going to add the 3 new suits, most likely for free, like you said, because they did add the previous suits pretty much in free updates as well. The Fantastic Four suits, the Far From Home suits, and of course, the one and only Tobey Maguire attire suit, none other than the web suit. Perfect. And Amazing. Even now with the Amazing Spider-Man suit, Kamen Rider, Arachnid Rider suit, and the Armored Advanced suit will most likely be added at no additional cost. And again, that just shows how meaningful people care about this game, how much that people really want to experience the most that it has to offer, and just how much they want to keep playing it as much as they can. And the inclusion of new suits, even though it may not be some of the suits that we would want to see, of course, like that of the sensational Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit or the Bullet Point Spider-Man suit, Superior or Spider-Man. I know a lot of people were waiting for Superior Spider-Man or Alex Ross even. That would have been a cool one. We, at least, are getting new costumes that will incentivize us as players to keep diving into this incredible Spider-Man universe in more ways than one, both on current gen and next gen. And I think if it is for free, that's just a massive W all around. Now, would we want other suits? For sure. But I think it's great that we're at least getting something rather than nothing.
Yeah, and I kind of did point out too that they really had no incentive to do that. I don't think they're making much money off the PS4 version of this game anymore. I could be totally wrong for the original Marvel Spider-Man, because even when I see it, it's basically the Game of the Year version for $20 or $30. I'm sure it still sells some, but this thing's not selling like it was at launch. So they're really doing this, I think, because one, they just really enjoy the game and they've wanted to make this, the original game and the remaster and the Miles Morales, the best games that they think they possibly can. I really do believe that that's what they're trying to do. Even when I disagree with something they do, I know that they are trying to do that. And also, I just think that it's a good look. I'm sure they know it's a good look, but I don't really think that's the only reason they did it.
That's where, of course, we as the Spidey Squad, as a group, we always try and say, in Insomniac we trust. And it's not just blind faith, because we obviously call them out and stuff that we heavily dislike or don't agree with. You guys already know what I'm talking about. But in the sense when they truly showcase their passion, their honesty, and their generosity when it comes to showcasing how much they care about the character just as much as we, the fans, do. That's why we have so much faith into the way on how they can deliver a truly innovative and also super impactful product that a lot of fans will resonate with. Not just with the character of Miles, not just with the character of Peter, but also in how they manifest the gameplay, how it runs, how we as fans can dive into these worlds as our most beloved heroes in both of these games now, with Peter's game with Spider-Man PS4, the remaster, and now with Miles coming up soon. It just is a wonderful thing to have a developer care as much as they do without needing to try and read between the lines or anything like that. It's just full out honesty, generosity, and passion. And that's what I love about Insomniac. We've seen that from them time and time again, seeing that they're doing it again during the craziness of the world, working from home, all those restrictions they have to deal with, and trying to launch a brand new game onto next gen on time is even more of a crazy challenge that I'm sure they've had to overcome. So huge props to them for going above and beyond during this year. And I think based on the footage we've seen, the suits we've seen, not just for Peter, but also the suits that we've seen for Miles, there's going to be a lot of different wardrobes that we as fans can try out and ways to stylize ourselves as our own unique Spider-Man. And I think that besides that, being able to play a fully well-rounded, completely developed Miles game to showcase how important this character is besides Peter alongside of the next-gen consoles is just a dream come true for a lot of people. And I think that the final result is going to be something that is going to be extremely meaningful for a lot of fans out there. I think that in general, we are just very, very excited to see what this game can lead into, because this is not a full game, meaning that it is a main game with a full cast of characters and a story to go along with it. But this is still the first step into where Insomniac is truly going into next gen. Reminder that they are now a first-party studio owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment, PlayStation Studios. They are a completely owned studio now for PlayStation directly, and that's also going to continue on with their next Ratchet & Clank game, Rift Apart. But for the series of Spider-Man, they're just getting started. So seeing how much they've done to improve what the first game did already off the bat, on both PS4 and PS5, I can only begin to imagine where they can go even further once we receive the official sequel down the line exclusively on PS5. Because at that point, I'm sure probably 2-3 years down the line, they'll be making the official sequel, Marvel Spider-Man 2, and it will only be running on next-gen hardware. And seeing how that can incorporate gameplay mechanics with Peter and the black suit and the open world, all that great stuff, I am very excited to see what the potential is that Miles is establishing and how that can lead even further down the line. And I cannot wait.
Yeah, I am super excited too. And I do really want to thank you for being here. I know that one thing I really respect about you, I always try to say something nice before I wrap these up, not something forced, but something nice about whoever I'm, talking to. Is I really do like that you are willing to give them the praise that they deserve, because they do deserve a lot of praise, but I never really see you suck up to anything. Like when you talk about this stuff, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever, sometimes that your take will get a little pushback and you're willing to still give it and give your honest feedback. And that is one of the things that I think for the most is my biggest endorsement of you, is that if people want honest takes on whatever, you're talking about, that you're passionate for, whether it's Spidey or something else, they really should check out your channel. You have a wide variety of stuff over there that is really fantastic, very entertaining, a lot of passion, and you're always ready to give an honest feedback, video or take on something that is not sucking up, is not just trying to get something free out of a developer or anything like that. You just say it how you think it is. And I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that you came on here today to help kind of do a basically, I think, final update before Miles comes out, at least probably on my channel, unless there's something else big. So thank you very much for being here for that.
Well, that's just a huge thank you to you, Jay, because I'm just trying to be as genuine as possible. But it's amazing people like yourself who always are open, passionate, and caring about the subjects that they talk about, where you pour your heart and soul into your subject matter. Being able to connect and collaborate with someone like you makes it all the more meaningful for someone like me who loves these characters with their entire heart and soul. And just seeing someone as amazing as you feel that same way just is a wonderful feeling for me personally. So I cannot thank you enough for having me on your incredible channel.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, everybody go check out Evan. His channel's fantastic. It's in the description and in the link down, or in the pinned comment down below. And also in the description, I am pushing really hard. I will also promote myself here real quick to reach at least 7,500 subscribers on my Let's Play channel before the end of the year. If you're already still here at 28 minutes, I know that you probably are loving this channel or enjoying it, or you fell asleep. One of the three. I don't know. I'm just glad you're here. Sleep through multiple videos. Give me the watch time, please. But I am going to be playing through Miles Morales on my Let's Play channel, which is linked in the description. I hope you will check that out. We have a lot of fun over there, podcast style, hanging out, just chilling and playing games, and I look forward to seeing you there. But hey, anyways, thanks again, Evan, for being here. I appreciate the hell out of you. Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to be amazing. Lots of heart, lots of soul, and as GameSpot would say, lots of swagger. We'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and as always, stay shway.
Peace out, true believers.